Welcome back to ESBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by Greg. This is a kind of reaction video, somewhat, after seeing Jai Opetaia stop David Nika inside 4 rounds. And yeah, this is just kind of a video talking about whether or not we think he could be unbeatable, whether that's a cruiserweight, at heavyweight, or if nobody is a match for Jai Opetaia. And before we get into it, Greg, if you can like this video, hit that subscribe button if you're not already a subscriber. And yeah, drop us a comment and let us know your thoughts on what we're about to discuss. Greg, appreciate you jumping on and giving me your time today. Yeah, I mean, as I mentioned, whenever you're watching this video, it might have been a couple of days after the fight, but a chilling knockout from Jai Opetaia, arguably the best cruiserweight in the world. Some people might think Gilberto Ramirez, but yeah, an incredible fighter, and that unbeatable word we maybe throw about sometimes, and it's difficult to say. But do you think there's a case that Jai Opetaia could perhaps actually be unbeatable at cruiserweight first and foremost before we maybe talk about something else after that?
Yeah, great to be joined by you as always, Paul. Actually, at this moment in time, I do. I don't think the gap between him and Gilberto Ramirez is as big as what everyone thinks. I think Gilberto Ramirez has got a better boxing brain than Jai Opetaia, but I think Jai Opetaia might be too sharp for him. And if he uses his speed and his attributes, yeah, I think for me he's the best cruiserweight in the world at the moment, Paul.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree. I think that's a good fight. Hopefully, we do see it in 2025, mate. I think that there's a high possibility, a big chance that it does happen with the whole Riyadh season and stuff as well. So yeah, fingers crossed, mate, that happens. I think. I mean, I know there's the WBC situation and stuff, but it's one of those two. It's either Opetaia or Zurdo. One of those two is the best cruiserweight. I think that's the general consensus of boxing fans. So yeah, I'm fully on board with that fight, mate. Fingers crossed we do see it. Do you suppose it's kind of then is giving away your prediction? Like I, for one, I'll start by saying this. I don't think any fighter is unbeatable as such. Like, I know you could say that Floyd Mayweather retired undefeated, Joe Calzaghe retired undefeated. They're just the first two that came to my mind. But like the word unbeatable, literally when you look at it, means like nobody is able to defeat this person. They are too good. And I don't think that's the case. Like, Nue, people are talking about, is he unbeatable? Yeah, maybe at up to a certain weight, but when he maybe bites off more than he can chew, then he probably is beatable. So it's a difficult one for me. I don't think anyone is really unbeatable, but at this moment in time, do you believe there's a cruiserweight in the world that can beat Jai Opetaia, or do you think that he is that word unbeatable at 200 pounds?
I think there's a light heavyweight that can beat him. I think if Artur Beterbiev was a big amateur, Paul, he's boiling to really get down to light heavyweight. He's a big man. I think if I look at the way the styles are, sometimes Jai Opetaia invites pressure onto him. We've seen David Nika bring a bit of pressure onto him. We've seen Maris Breedis put a lot of pressure on him. But Artur Beterbiev he's a different animal. He hits really hard. If he takes that power up to cruiserweight and Jai Opetaia gives him those opportunities to hit him, I think Artur Beterbiev would win that fight. But it needs to be now, Paul, because I mean, what is Artur Beterbiev? He's 40, maybe approaching 41 soon. So it kind of needs to be those one that it's never, never.
Yeah, I totally agree, mate. I totally agree. I think it's definitely on one of our boxing wish lists. I mean, I would love to see that.
Yeah.
Whether whatever happens on February 22nd in the Bivol rematch, could we see Beterbiev maybe have a go at cruiserweight against the likes of Opetaia before he hangs them up? Who knows, mate? Who knows? Anything can happen. You never say never. But yeah, selfishly, we're probably sitting here hoping that it does. But yeah, that's an interesting one for me, mate. It's very interesting. I think when I look at the cruiserweight landscape, I'm probably not including Beterbiev in that just because of the age factor there. And like the jump from I know he's a big light heavy, but the jump from light heavy to cruiser, 25 pounds is vast, 175 up to 200. Not saying that he can't do it for Turbiev, and he does have the skill. But yeah, you're right. Say he was the land, at the end of the second round when Niga landed that and maybe momentarily buzzed up Ataya, if that's Artur
Yeah.
Beterbiev landing that shot, is it game over? Could be. Yeah, it could be. You could argue that. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's not, but I think I agree with you, mate. I don't think Jai Opetaia, to answer the question in the title of this video, I don't think Jai Opetaia is unbeatable. But yeah, fascinating fight. I hadn't really, kind of forgotten about Beterbiev there, mate, until you mentioned it there. So yeah, that's no, I can't stop thinking about that fight. That's what I want to see now. But yeah, another potential option for Jai Opetaia, and I know Eddie Hearn mentioned it in the aftermath there, is say he fights Gilberto Ramirez, everything goes to plan, he unifies the division. People are talking already about a move up to heavyweight and potentially taking over there as well. Do you think that there's a few heavyweights out there right now, or maybe in a couple of years' time, that could beat Jai Opetaia, or could you see a world in which he moves up to heavyweight and dominates there?
A really good question, Paul. Really good question, because I actually thought you were going to say to me there about Usyk maybe going back down, and I thought 38 years old, taking over 2 stone off your body to go back down against a guy who's just going to get better and better. It's a hard fight. To answer your question at heavyweight, Paul, it's a tough one because we're going through a bit of a change in the heavyweight division now. Guys like Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, they're coming to the end. We've got Daniel Dubois coming through. We've got new blood coming through. Justice Hunis, who we've seen on the undercard. We've got Moses Atauma. It would really all depend over the next few years what the heavyweight landscape looks like, Paul. But what I will say is that the speed of Jai Opetaia is going to give a lot of heavyweights at the top of the crop problems at the moment. If you ask me, does he go up and beat Zhang, boxes Zhang's head off? Does he go up and beat Martin Bakole? That's a really hard fight for me, really hard fight, but they say speed kills. So I think we're going to need to see how the landscape of the heavyweight division goes over the next 24 months, Paul, and then we'll be in a better position to say going forward.
Yeah, it's very difficult to give a definitive answer one way or the other. I completely agree, mate. I think, you know, straight off the bat, some people might say, well, he's not big enough. Then your reply is just Oleksandr Usyk. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah.
know they're different fighters, but size wise, he kind of ripped up that script, Usyk, didn't he, with beating the likes of Joshua twice, Dubois and Fury, of course, twice as well. So I suppose that's maybe not an argument. I know stylistically, the way Usyk boxes maybe kind of negates the disadvantages he has in size and stature. Jai Opetaia, I know he doesn't box completely like Usyk at all, and nobody does. But the way Opetaia obviously is a southpaw, he does jink in and out. He moves quite a lot, but I think he's maybe easier to hit, obviously, than an Usyk. So at heavyweight, could he hold the shot at heavyweight? That's another question. Because you're gonna get
Paul,
you
you
can
need to give yourself credit. You need to give yourself credit. You're making a great point there, and it's as though you're saying like you doubt yourself. No, you're absolutely right in what you're saying. We can't always compare everything to Alexander Usyk. David Haye was the same height. He went up to heavyweight, won a world title. John Ruiz wasn't the biggest heavyweight in the world. He won a world title. So I totally agree with what you're saying, mate. I think it's just we're going through a stage just now where Usyk is a bit special, but there's guys who have been the same height as Opetaia roundabout have went up and won heavyweight world titles. So I think you make a great point.
yeah, I mean, it's again. I think as we've alluded to a few times already in this video, I don't think Jai Opetaia is necessarily unbeatable. I definitely don't. I think there will come a time for the end of his career, whether that's in the next year, 2 years, or 5 years' time, or whatever it is. I think there will come a time when we see Jai Opetaia get beaten. But whether that's by, a Beterbiev coming up, whether that's by someone else at cruiserweight who we maybe even haven't mentioned already, whether that is by a heavyweight when he's maybe biting off more than he can chew, who knows? But I just definitely don't. I don't see him being unbeatable. It's the same thing, mate, as well with you know, people saying about Inoue being unbeatable, Beterbiev, even people saying about unbeatable. There's always someone out there who probably has your number.
Yeah.
Whether people maybe want to admit it or not, there probably is. Like, what's to say that Usyk, everyone thinks he's unbeatable now at heavyweight. And I'm not saying that I would predict him to lose any of these fights, but what's to say, for example, first name that came to my head, Usyk gets into the ring with a Joseph Parker, a Martin McFoley, and they somehow negate everything that Alexander Usyk does well, and they beat him. It could happen. It's boxing. I know it's a cliche, but it could happen. Anything can happen. So I don't necessarily think anyone is unbeatable. But yeah, just rounding off, mate. Do you see? I'll limit it down into the next. Say Beterbiev doesn't come up to cruiserweight and he maybe retires if he's to win the Bivol fight. Do you think that looking at the current crop of cruiserweight, which includes the Gilberto Ramirez's, the Noel McKellans, the Willem Smiths, those type of people, do you think that Jai Opetaia could be beaten at 200 pounds in the next 2 years, or do you think that he is unbeatable for the next 24 months?
Honestly, Paul, I think he's got 2 fights maximum left at cruiserweight. We've seen Eddie Hearn talking about the Ramirez fight, but next in the summer, if he wins that, he's not really got anything left to do at cruiserweight. While he's waiting, just say for example Ramirez happens at the end of the year, he could face someone else and defend his title. So I don't see him losing at cruiserweight, Paul. And then once he's beat Ramirez, I do see that jump up to heavyweight, but he'll need to take that step slow. He's not in the same caliber of classes like an Usyk who can go up and beat Anthony Joshua and beat Tyson Fury almost back to back. If he goes up to the heavyweight division, he needs to break himself into it. But at cruiserweight, I don't see anyone beating him, Paul.
Absolutely, mate. I think that's a brilliant way to end it. Thanks very much, Greg, for your time as always. Really enjoy doing these videos with you guys. If you're watching this, please let us know in the comments your thoughts on this. The whole what could be next for Jai Opetaia, whether he's unbeatable, whether that's just a cruiserweight, whether we maybe come up against it at heavyweight. Would Beterbiev move up to cruiserweight and beat him? Let us know in the comments your thoughts. And if you're not doing so already, please hit that subscribe button. Greg, thanks very much for joining me, mate. I'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks again, Paul.